Hello and welcome to Education at SSBJ online video tutorials. We are in the chapter number 6 of class 8th CBSE Combustion and Flame, right? In the previous video tutorial we have learned the meaning of combustion. And what is combustion? Combustion is the chemical process occur when the substance react with oxygen, gives heat and sometimes light also. Now all those substances which can combine with oxygen and gives heat and light are combustible substances, and rest of the substances which cannot combine with oxygen to give light and heat are non-combustible substances. And then we have seen requirement for combustion. And what is required for combustion? We require fuel. Okay, and what is fuel? All combustible substances are fuel. Okay, for example, petrol. Petrol is combustible substance, therefore it is a fuel. A paper also can be a fuel. Wood is a fuel. All these are combustible substances, right? So we require fuel for the process of combustion. What else? We require oxygen, and then we require very important ignition temperature. And what is ignition temperature? Ignition temperature is the lowest temperature at which the substance catch fire. These things we have learned and discussed in the previous video tutorials. You must have seen on some vehicles a caption is written, caution, flammable liquid. What do you mean by flammable? Or we can even say inflammable substance or inflammable liquid. Substances which have very low ignition temperature. So all those substances which are having a low ignition temperature, they can catch fire suddenly. For example, phosphorus, the symbol is P, and at 30 degrees centigrade it catches fire. That is why this is stored in water. So some of those which are having a low ignition temperature can be called as flammable substances or inflammable substance. Okay, therefore the definition of inflammable substances is the substance which have very low ignition temperature and can easily catch fire with a flame are called inflammable substances. For example, petrol, alcohol, or petroleum LPG gas. So they are all inflammable. So the truck carrying such substances are generally seen with a board written at the back, caution, inflammable substance or just inflammable. Now we'll go for types of combustion. We have learned what combustion is. Now there are three types of combustion. The first combustion is a rapid combustion. Now this rapid word tells us when the combustion is called as rapid combustion. The conditions are it should be rapid and it should give more amount of heat. Okay, I'll give you one example. Every day we see just a spark can lit the LPG gas. So rapid meaning in a short span of time. In short span of time means in short time this gets into flame just with a little spark. Okay, and then it gives more heat and light. So heat and light should be produced, that is another condition. Okay, and therefore such combustions are called rapid combustions, right? When a substance bursts in a short span of time, so this is to be underlined, the combustion of the substance is almost complete and large amount of heat and light is produced, and when these things happen it's called rapid combustion. Please remember it should be very rapid and it should give out more amount of heat. The next one is spontaneous combustion. Now let me give you one example. We have already talked about an element called phosphorus, right? So phosphorus has an ignition temperature of 30 degree. So sometimes the 30 degree is less than the room temperature in summer, and therefore if you keep this phosphorus outside, then you need not give any external heat to this. it gets into fire on its own, and that is why it is stored in water in a cool condition. Okay, such combustion where material suddenly burst into flame without any external application of heat is called spontaneous combustion. The type of combustion is which a material suddenly burst into flames without the application of any apparent cause. Okay, we have not given any external heat to this, and then it is referred as a spontaneous combustion. Now third one is explosion. Okay, now in this combustion reaction, what happens when it is ignited? When we supply heat, lot of heat is produced in combustion. Not only heat, a light and even the sound energy also produced. So we get in this reaction more amount of heat, light as well as sound energy, and then we call this as explosion. Okay, so explosion is the third type of combustion. We have seen a rapid combustion, we have learnt a spontaneous combustion, and the third combustion is explosion. Okay, the reaction occurs when something ignites to produce heat, light and sound energy. Okay, and that is explosion. Right, firecrackers are the best examples for explosion. Now let us come to a topic of how to control the fire. For example, there is a fire accident, and how do you control this fire? For that we need to know the information that we require three things which causes fire, right? And what are those three things? Fuel, ignition temperature, right? And then oxygen. Now it's very simple for us to control fire. What causes fire? Fuel causes fire, ignition temperature causes fire, and oxygen causes fire. Therefore, either you stop fuel or stop more than one of any of this component. Either you stop oxygen or ignition temperature, and that is why generally any one of these or more than this, if you control, then the fire will be controlled easily. And that is why to control ignition temperature means the temperature should be low. It should not go to its ignition temperature. Therefore, we have to create an environment which is very cold, and so fireman, what does he do? He'll pour water to keep it cold. So that's the reason why the fire is controlled. So in this process, what is done? It is not allowed the fuel to get into its ignition temperature. Or else you can stop oxygen. Suppose if there is a fire accident, and then either you can pour water, if he is wearing any of the nylon cloths and all, that suddenly catches fire, and that's a very good fuel. So bring down its ignition temperature by pouring water, or cut down the oxygen. So how will you cut down the oxygen? Wrap him with the help of cloth. Okay, and that is the another method, right? The most common fire extinguisher is water. Water is most common fire extinguisher, right? But we cannot use every time water. What does water do? Water brings down the temperature, right? And it doesn't allow the fuel to reach its ignition temperature. But it cannot be used in most of the cases. For example, there is a electrical pole and electrical wires or electrical circuits are there at home, and there is a fire accident there. Then you cannot expect someone to come and fireman to climb onto the place and pour water. And what does it happen? If it does, then there, water being a good conductor of electricity, so there is a chance of electricity to flow into the water and to the body, and he will be electrocuted. Okay, the person will get an electric shock, and that is to be strictly avoided. Here we should not pour water. Okay, the second example is if there is a fire accident in the petrol pump, should we use water? No. Okay. Why we should not use water? There is no chance of electricity getting electrocuted here. But why we should not use water here? Let me tell you that when you mix water as well as petrol, right? Water is okay little heavier than the oil. So what happens? So when the both are mixed, the petrol still will be floating on water, right? Petrol still will be floating on water. How much ever you pour the water on this, right, petrol will be always on the top layer because water is heavier. So when the petrol comes to a top layer, it will continue to burn. So no effect of pouring water. So what to do, right? We should not pour water. So in these cases, in case of petrol as well as electrical accidents of fire, we should not use water, but however we should use a carbon dioxide as a best fire extinguisher. Look at this. What do you mean by fire extinguisher? The substance which puts off the fire. Okay, and we generally see fire extinguishers written, on a cylindrical type of box. What does it contains? It contains compressed carbon dioxide. The moment you release this, carbon dioxide will rush. There are some chemicals inside. It produces carbon dioxide and that is stored inside. Okay, but why? How is that carbon dioxide works? Right? Let's say there is a fire here, and what does we require for fire? We require oxygen for fire, we require fuel for fire, we require ignition temperature for fire. Okay, so these things we require. Now any one of this we have to cut. We cannot cut fuel in this case because already fuel is burning. Now ignition temperature, let's say that this is such, it's a petrol where we cannot pour water also, so this also is not possible. Now we have to avoid this oxygen. Okay, what does it contains? Carbon dioxide. Now when this is released, so carbon dioxide will rush out and then have a envelope over it. Carbon dioxide is heavier than oxygen. Okay, so what happens? Oxygen will be on the top and carbon dioxide creates a layer here, a kind of envelope. So when I draw this line, understand that it's a carbon dioxide envelope. Okay, like we have an envelope of carbon dioxide even in the atmosphere, so that creates a carbon dioxide envelope and that doesn't allow the oxygen to get inside. So the immediate effect is having no oxygen, sufficient oxygen here down, the fire will get off, and this should be done whenever there is a requirement of carbon dioxide and where we cannot use water or any other materials to put off the fire. In the case of petrol, we have to use this fire extinguisher. Carbon dioxide will rush out and put off the fire. It will block the entry of oxygen, and then even in the fire accident, it will block the entry of oxygen. Okay, by creating a layer since it's heavier, and therefore we should always remember such the places where there is a possibility of such accidents, such as laboratories, okay, such as companies, and where there are more of electrical equipments are there we need to have fire extinguisher fitted to the wall, and the people also should be trained how to use these fire extinguishers. Let us discuss about flame. You must have seen when you lit a candle and observe the flame very keenly, you will find a different colors of flames which are available. You can clearly bifurcate these zones, what we call. These are called zones of flame. And this is very important question. expect this question in the exams, to draw the diagram of parts of flame and label it properly. Well, let us draw zones of candle flame. Zones of candle flame, right? So when you draw this, you have to properly label it. So let us discuss on that. Let us draw the flame first. So what I do is I'll take an innermost layer of the flame and then draw a center layer and then a outside zone. Okay, when I call a layer, it's a zone. Okay, and then it's a thread, and that is over a candle. So you can just show it as a candle. Well, now the outermost part of this flame is called outer zone. In outer zone, complete combustion is possible. So here, complete combustion. And why here complete combustion? It is more exposed to oxygen outside. Okay, easily available. We know that for burning, for combustion, oxygen is required. So it is required more in quantity. So more the oxygen, so better the combustion process is. And therefore this part is hottest. Now the next zone is middle zone. So we will label it as middle zone, where there is partial combustion is possible. And why there is a partial combustion? What do you mean by partial combustion? Partial combustion in the sense more of oxygen is not available here. So whatever substance is there is not completely burnt here in this zone. Therefore it is partial combustion, right? And it's not so hot and not so cold, so we can refer it as moderately. And the last one, it's the least hot, and that is what called innermost zone, and there is more of unburnt wax is available. And why more of unburnt wax? Because less of oxygen supply here, being this as the innermost zone. So generally it appears black in color, whereas it's bluish. Bluish is an indicator of hottest zone. There will be more of temperature. You can very easily test it. You can take a paper or a metal sheet and then keep over here, keep over the flame. If this is a flame, so you can keep over the flame like this, and then you will find bottom of this, on this side you will find a carbon which is formed, carbon rings which are formed, right? And what does this carbon ring suggest? These are the unburnt particles, right? So this is what the answer you should draw and label it properly. For the question, draw zones of candle flame. So that will carry 4 marks, okay, with all labeling. So we shall see remaining content of this chapter in the next video tutorial. Till then, thank you very much. Thank you very much.